Okay, let me turn off my mute here. Turn off my mute, turn on my mute. Greetings. Today is Thursday. Is everything okay? Can everybody hear? I'm going to have to get some cool... Yeah, okay. My unmute was still on, but I'm here now. Welcome. It's Thursday. Welcome to Coffee Composing, which is normally on a Friday at 10 in the morning. But hey, they're my rules, so there you go. No, I came on early because, this is going to be the last one before we break for the festive period. And it's just too crazy to think about live streams and work and all, and everything is too busy. So this is the last one. But I wanted to come on and talk about 2025. And every year at the start of the year, I go, I want to get better at documenting my year, because so often happens you get to this time of year and you look back at what you've done and try to remember like the movies you've watched and the books you've read and the albums you've listened to and the things you've done. And when you actually go and trace it all out, you've done far more than you think you have, but you think you've done far less. And there is that saying that people overestimate what they can achieve in a day, but they underestimate what they can achieve in a year. So I find a review is always good for that kind of mindset. So trying not to underestimate what you may have done. So if you have any comments about what you did this year, did you do anything cool? And, tell me about it. Come on and let me know. And even if you're watching this back, I know that like 10 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday is probably the least peak time to be going live. And that may change in the new year. And if there is a time that you would like to see, or you would like to kind of join in this conversation, I'd love to know about it, because, I am still trying to figure these out. And on that note, I wanted to talk about how the year started. So in January, I made a video and I took it down, but I think I'm going to relist it now. It was basically me setting out my stall for how I thought the year was going to pan out. Needless to say, spoiler alert, it didn't pan out exactly the way I predicted, but whose does. So this year I started off in full transition mode, which means that I wanted to move from being a professional guitar player, singer and musician to being a full-time composer, for a media composer full-time, which has been a long time aspiration and dream for me. But the logistics of doing that and the reality didn't quite work out how I thought they were going to work out. But I think that is more about my own kind of business acumen than it is about creativity and being able to do the job. And I think that speaks more towards artists in general, in that quite often you'll see a lot of successful artists online and you'll wonder why they're getting success and you're not. And I think a lot of it is down to they're just better at that side of things, the marketing themselves, getting out in front of people and talking about themselves and about what they do, and being able to show people their work. That's certainly something that I've learned over the course of the year. So social media has always been a love-hate kind of thing for me. Sometimes I go on most platforms, and I pretty much enjoy it. The only platform I really just do not use at all is Twitter, because I just think there is just too much negativity there. Um, and there's enough negativity in life and social media in general to worry about that. So I kind of double down on two platforms, YouTube being one. And my YouTube experience this year, first thing it taught me is that people who are making weekly videos, or dare I say daily videos, um, are spending a lot of time making videos. um, and this, again, this could be a skills thing. I mean, people might know very, very well how to make their own videos and edit them. I was learning that. I still am. I mean, you're always a student, right? The eternal student. But the thing about live streams that I like is you can turn the camera on and you can just start talking about whatever it is you want to talk about. But I think I kind of settled into a rhythm where I can realistically put out maybe a video a month. And however that affects your growth on YouTube, you know, um, for me, I'm happy to have slow growth at the moment, because I think uh, part of part of the reason that musicians um, aren't more successful on social media, I think, is this idea of staying hidden, or being willing to be open and put yourself out there in front of people. And some, weirdly enough, if slow growth and low follower accounts allows you this kind of testing ground where you can put together, videos that aren't particularly good. Not that my videos aren't good, my videos are excellent, of course. But you can afford to fail. And there's not too many stakes at that stage. So um that's what I'm telling myself anyway, is that my videos are slowly and surely getting better, but not too many people are seeing the ones that aren't as good as maybe they could be. And that's not for that's a complete lack of skill thing on my side. Like, I mean, I'm a musician, not a, well, yeah. There's blurred lines between what you are as an artist. I mean, I think you're a little bit of everything: graphic designer, filmmaker, um, font enthusiast, and yeah. So YouTube's been, I got about 100 new subscribers. I'm at 250 subscribers, so like way off the 1,000 1,000 subs and whatever it is, 10 million watch hours for monetization. But I think you have to do it with a sense of enthusiasm first, rather than do it with a sense of you want to just turn on this kind of revenue platform. So yeah, mixed bag. The other platform that I really went all in on this year was Substack, and Substack's my new favorite social platform. And the reason for that is it's not as heavily algorithmically driven as other platforms, and it's not you're not bogged down with advertising. You're reading direct, real people's unfiltered opinions. Like, I mean, obviously some people are trying to sell their own things, and that comes with the landscape we're living in. But there's not as many like brand partnerships and advertisements being forced on you, and algorithmic choices being made for you. You can kind of go and you can edit your own feed up to a point. And I've got in touch with some really nice people over there. The whole culture and the attitude of people over on Substack seems to be quite friendly, and people are genuinely wanting to share their work in a way that feels kind of like an old school publication. So the short form content, obviously you see the benefit of short form content. So I'm still on TikTok and Instagram. Facebook has been a big surprise this year in terms of social media. And what happened was a lot of work opportunities come up in Facebook. I would have thought that those work opportunities would come up through LinkedIn, but I really do struggle to see the point of LinkedIn. It's very corporate-y, and it seems to be very self-celebratory. So you have a lot of people giving out their achievements and other people saying congratulations to your achievements. I've also been job hunting this year because I obviously wanted to transition from being a gig musician and teacher to full-time media composition, and I knew that that was going to be a stretch, so I was looking for a regular 9 to 5 job that could just kind of pay the bills, and you know, the hours would be better, and for whatever reason. But I sent out quite a lot of CVs this year, and crickets on a lot of them, and a lot of them were jobs that were listed and relisted on LinkedIn. So now I'm coming at this from personal experience. This is not statistics based. I haven't really drilled down into all my statistics for my social platforms and stuff, but it's just from personal experience what I found. So YouTube and Substack. Substack probably being my number one, and YouTube being my number two. I think it, like, I'm able to get my point across a little bit better because I'm a little bit long-winded, and I like to take a circuitous route to the point. So if you're a fan of that, then you're in the right place. So they were kind of the big things on social. In real life, composer wise, and a lot of this is kind of Ireland based. So if you're watching this from somewhere else, forgive me, but that's just the way kind of my experience of things are going here. So there's an organization called the Screen Composers Guild, and it's one of several filmmaking guilds that are here in Ireland. And the Screen Composers Guild is fantastic. It's a community of screen composers, and basically, for lack of a better word, it's kind of like a community or a union. It's not technically a union, but a collection of film composers, and they offer workshops and job opportunities and placements, and basically a network of support for what is like a really isolating and lonely career. Especially in the beginning stages, and they offer ways that you can, help to build your network first of all, and also help you to kind of see how the industry is working. And it's got from the highest levels of film composers down to associate composers, which you can join without any credits, which is brilliant. Small join up fee, but what you get back is just absolutely incredible. So I have attended some workshops, and I have a list of these here. What did I attend? Yeah. So there were the big film festivals, Dublin Film Festival and Galway Film Festival. I went to them. There was workshops with Patrick Dacey, and he's the musical director of Bob's Burgers. There was Paul Hartnell, who was in Orbital, the band Orbital, and learned some excellent stuff about synths and writing for synths. There was the Minding Creative Minds, which is another organization about helping artists in general with things like mental health and support systems and networking. So it was so great to be out in the real world networking and talking to people who are trying to pursue this career, which is kind of, it's very nebulous, and there's no direct path to there's no direct path in. So knowing where to start and how to deal with things, and even down to what do you charge as a composer, how many minutes are people expecting of music, how big of an orchestration can you afford, how could you put a project together. I mean, there are so many questions that you can have answers for just at the other end of an email. And yeah, absolutely fantastic. So if you're in Ireland, check them out, Screen Composers Guild. And also the Directors Guild is a really good organization too for making contacts with directors, because that was the other big thing that I realized this year in looking for work as a media composer. And I did get a couple of jobs, so it wasn't the full on, the tap's now turned on and I'm just consistently working in this area. But the other thing that I found out, well, pretty quickly, is that you won't get jobs from film composers. You get support and you get your questions answered, and networking is excellent, but the people that are making films are producers and directors, and they are the people that will be deciding whether a composer is somebody that fits with their project or not. So finding those directors can be tricky, and quite often established directors and producers will have their own composers that they work with regularly, because what happens quite often is that somebody will do a good job for them, and because they're reliable and they give them what they want, they'll work with them time and time again. You see director composer collaborations everywhere. Big famous ones like Steven Spielberg and John Williams, who are teaming up again next year for Disclosure Day, which, Steven Spielberg back doing sci-fi, sign me up for sure. And yes, someone else that was really influential for this, not Irish based, is Cheska Navarro. Definitely check out her newsletter, because I got a job from a posting she listed, and it was my first job. So it wasn't my first job, but it was my first proper film scoring job. So check her out. Really grassroots practical advice as a beginner composer to how you go about getting gigs. And just to maybe give you a short outline of what that looks like is checking out people's short films. So there's a YouTube channel called Omeletto, I believe it's called Omeletto, and they show short films. So niching down on your genre of strength. So what genres are you most interested in? Are you interested in animation? Are you interested in sci-fi, horror, thriller, indie drama? Not to paint yourself into a corner, but if they're your strengths and they're the projects that you want to be working on, finding short films that are within that style or genre, and then researching the directors and producers who are making those films, and then reaching out to them directly. So go check out the work of directors that you want to work with, go check out the work of producers you want to work with, and reach out to them. And it doesn't have to be hire me now. It's just watched your movie, really enjoyed it. I'm a composer. If you're ever looking for somebody, this is exactly the music that I like to do. So, you know, keep me in mind. I'd love to have a chat. And this is also seemingly a truth about film composing, is that networking just is making friends, and making friends just takes as long as it takes. So I have been in touch with people who I've met like 2 years ago at film festivals, and you touch in every now and again and say, is something coming on? It's like, I might have something, trying to get funding, and who knows, something might land, something might not land. But the connection is the most important thing. Today is not actually coffee and composing day, it's tea and composing day. So yeah, so like I've learned a lot about that side of things, and it's been an interesting year. I mean, maybe a little bit naively thought there'd be a little bit more out there, but it's a slow burn, and we'll see what the next few years bring. But one of the things that I wanted to do with Substack and these live streams is to give you kind of an honest and you know, let you know what it's like out there for somebody that's trying to start from total obscurity. But like, I also have a lot of experience in another area, so like, as in setting up a business and seeing the growth rate there. You know, somebody gave us a piece of advice when we started our first business, was if you can survive the first 5 years, then it gets easy. And there's a certain amount of truth in that, because most things fail within the first 18 months or a year, or you see it with like podcasts, and you see it with people starting off things really enthusiastically, and January will be the same. You'll have all these people giving you know, enthusiastic reports of all the things they're going to start. YouTube, Substack, they all have a runway, a kind of an introductory runway of about 2 years, where you just need to keep putting stuff out there and building on it. So I don't know if that's good advice for you or for me, but yes, keep things honest and let you know where I'm at. Now I am going to talk about a couple of other things that were important this year, and then I'm going to jump into a little bit of actual composing, because I've been working on a project that I want to have out next week. It's a little cover. If you were watching this live stream before, you'll have heard it. But I did want to talk about some of the things that were on my kind of watching and listening radar over the past year, because I'm a big believer in you know, this idea, steal like an artist, and you're the prism of your influences and how you view the world. And that's my kind of philosophy as an artist, is that, you know, everything goes into the blender of you and comes out as, you know, your projection of that influence. So I find that things that inspire me, or things that move me, or, you know, even just catch my interest interestingly, who knows where they're going to show up in your own work. So I like to share these things. So with that in mind, all of these things that I'm going to kind of say come with the caveat they might not have all been made in 2025, but I experienced them in 2025. So I hope that explains things a little bit better. So what cut through the noise? Movie wise, One Battle After Another was my movie of the year, and the direction, the score, performances, and the story, it was like going back and seeing a regular movie. And I mean that in the way that, like, movies have become so derivative and you know, uninteresting in terms of expectation. And a lot of that is due to streaming, overproduction, and, you know, just really kind of assembly line McDonald's production. And sometimes that's great, and sometimes it really works, and sometimes it's exactly what you're in the mood for. But when it's just too much, it really kind of gets a little bit it really gets a little bit samey. And a difficult thing then is discerning when these films that kind of strike through that a little bit more come out. I saw Nosferatu this year, and that's another one that felt like a proper made film. It didn't seem like Netflix produced this, and you know what? Now I know Nosferatu I think was from last year, but I saw it this year. Weapons was another one that did that for me. Great story, great twist, and the fact that nobody knew much going in was really great. Great score too. Sinners, obviously, another one. 28 years later, I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a much smaller movie in scope than I thought it was going to be, and I enjoyed that about it a lot. It was a very story based experience, which I really liked. And the Bruce Springsteen movie, Delivery for Nowhere. I went into this fully convinced of one thing, that it was going to be like a typical biopic. You know, here's the fame problem, here's the drug problem, here's the marriage problem, here's the divorce, here's the redemption. Which seems to be the same as, you know, every biopic ever made. But this was different. And even as I was watching it, my mind was saying, this is what this is about. This is typical. I've seen this. And a few days later, I was like, actually, no, that was not what it was about. It was about something different. And, you know, in hindsight, I enjoyed the movie better than I did at the time, which I know kind of makes weird sense. Does it make any sense? Who knows? And yeah, some bad ones then. Let's not do the bad ones. TV wise, there was some really good TV this year, and my top three are. Will I go in order? In order, upwards or downwards? I'll go in order. Andor was, you know, it's the best Star Wars. It's a great show anyway, even if it wasn't Star Wars. But it's definitely peak Star Wars. I think Star Wars, the original trilogy, and The Mandalorian, and Andor. And that's about pretty much the only good Star Wars for me. I think everything else is a bit meh. And, you know, there you go. But Andor is excellent. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And great score too. Nicholas Patel. I believe it was Nicholas Britell. Yeah, he gets to get his super dance trance tune on, which I really enjoyed. The Studio, Seth Rogen's this kind of sitcom-y. It was so good. Really referential to old filmmaking tropes, and yeah, loved it. It had a Curb Your Enthusiasm kind of vibe. Great humor. And The Pit is my number one. Hospital drama, and yeah, just it gives everything set. Each episode is 1 hour in like an emergency ward, and the story just keeps you engaged totally. Really, really well made, really well acted, and yeah, it is my pick of the year. Honorable mentions then were Pluribus, which I'm really enjoying. Really slow pacing, but I think that's the whole point of it, and I really enjoy that. Severance, Alien Earth, Murderbot, and Mobland. Mobland's a bit of a, just what we were talking about in terms of, chewing gum for the mind, but really entertaining. Books wise, well, I do favorite. Now, none of these books I think were written in 2025, so these are just my experiences of things in 2025. So, In the Blink of an Eye by Walter Murch, which is, I wrote about it last week, and I think this is just really opened my eyes about so many things within filmmaking and how we think about things. And what a genius, really. Words Without Music, Philip Glass biography. Yeah, I'm a big fan of minimalist music, and it's a lot of where I kind of see my own compositions going. Now, like aspirationally, of course, but minimalists like Philip Glass and Steve Reich and John Adams, and Terry Riley, they're all funnily enough, what happens to me quite often is I will hear something and immediately dislike it. And what tends to happen is that's an indicator of I will kind of come around to liking it more. So it like if I have an immediate reaction like, this is too simple, it's too repetitive, it's too straightforward, it's too there's not enough going on, and I'll end up coming back around and really appreciating those things about it. And that saying where people say when you dislike somebody, it's because they remind you of things that you dislike about yourself. I think if something immediately kind of grates on you, keep an eye on that, because it could be a sign of inspiration for you for the future. If you're into that kind of confrontational stuff, maybe you just like stuff that you like, and it might be means nothing. But my book of the year was an old one, written in 1985, so it makes it 40 years old this year. It was a book called Lonesome Dove, which is about cowboys, and they are doing like a cattle drive from Texas up to, just near Canada, and they go up through America, and it's about how life was in the Great Plains of America just before the railroads came in and changed the whole infrastructure of the country. And it's about how they live and their values and how life would have been for them. And it's really poignant. Um it's really tough sometimes. It's really unforgiving. But yeah, there's so much to it. It really, I don't know how I ended up reading it. A recommendation from somewhere, and yeah, I turns out really, really good. And music wise, Brad Meldau's album, Brad Meldau's album of Elliott Smith songs. Let me just get the name up here for you, because Ride Into the Sun. Because anytime Brad Meldau brings out an album, I have to listen to it. And Snarky Puppy's album. Which I really, really liked. Somni. It is with the Metropole Orchestra. Amazing contemporary orchestra based out of, I want to say, Holland. Don't quote me on that, but they're an amazing orchestra. The Metropole Orchestra. And that's about it. That's my year in review. So a little bit over and back, and but I want to jump into actually some composing thing, because after all, this is Coffee and Composing. But it was a bit of a different one, because we're breaking for the festive season and we're going to see everybody. First week of January, I guess, back to regular Friday morning slots, unless people leave a comment and ask me to do it at a different time. I really enjoy doing morning times because it's quiet and there's nobody here, and I can turn the camera on and talk for ages. But yeah, if there's a better time where you might want to jump on and have a chat and ask questions, I'm really a big fan of the Crow Hill Company, who do a weekly live podcast called Can You Hear Me Now, on a Wednesday evening at 7:00, and they do a Google Meet, and they just stream their Google Meet, and everybody jumps on and they have a conversation about film scoring and media composition and synthesizers, and that's been a big source of inspiration. And it reminds me of a couple of things that I forgot to mention, which were rescoring competitions. I entered a rescoring competition for Spitfire and the Crow Hill Company. I didn't win either of them, but it gives you, they give you cool visuals to practice with, and that is that's something that's, it's hard to find. It's hard to find things to practice on scoring for, because you can do rescores professionally. The most advice you get is don't give out rescores as a show reel, because people just associate, they'll either do one of two things. They'll associate your music with an amazing film, or your music will not live up to the already amazing music from the film that you're doing. And that's not to detract from the music you're making, or that it's not as good as the original film. It's just that, people's people's life experience of having experienced the film in one way with amazing music. I mean, maybe you could be good enough to come in, write something that's going to just blow the original score out of the water, but like you're setting yourself like really an impossible task there. But yes, rescoring competitions are really helpful, really valuable. So get on that. Okay, we're going to jump into Logic for 20 minutes. So I can't believe I've been talking for 20 minutes. Yeah, let me know how your year went. Stick it in the chat. I've linked a few things in the chat here. Substack, as I said earlier on, is kind of my number one platform-ish. And I have a couple of Logic Pro templates, orchestral templates, and a sci-fi hybrid template, which uses kind of stock Logic Pro synths in a kind of a sci-fi John Carpenter-y hybrid kind of way. So check them out too. So yeah, in the meantime, I'm going to come back to this, which is Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. And so last week we didn't really have the facility for kind of good audio. So what I did was I just kind of tidied things up a little bit. And I also added a mellotron, which was a kind of a gut reaction. But when I play at the start of this, you'll realize that the mellotron just takes over everything. Have a listen. Okay, so there's an awful lot going on here. So I'm going to start tidying up and panning some things and seeing if we can get these sections sounding a little bit better. I am quite happy with how the guitars are sounding. There was a free plugin from Universal Audio called the Showtime. This guy here, the Showtime 64 tube amp, was free for a period now. I think it's part of their new guitar rig setup, which is anything by Universal Audio is pretty amazing. So let's cut out these strings for a minute. Okay, the mellotron is just super overpowering, isn't it? That's a bit better. And a bit more flute-ish. So the great thing about adding tape speed and stuff is that it lessens the need for too much reverb on it. Okay. So one of the things I'm trying to set myself a goal of is to not start writing loads of extra stuff. I'm going to really try, and that's kind of going forward. And I don't do many New Year's resolutions, but that would definitely be one resolution, is that once you have kind of things in there, to work with what you have rather than and it sounds like this is where the string should come in really here, doesn't it? And so they do. Now I've done strings as a pad, so I'm not quite sure what I was thinking here. And these strings have nothing in them. So let's load up some strings here. So thanks for sticking around so long. Where are we? Yeah, 15 minutes. Okay, so we might just get these strings done. Yeah, these strings are doing nothing. So Spitfire symphonic strings. And yeah, let's use you. So yeah, do leave me any questions or comments or anything that I've touched on in these live streams or in the Substacks or whatever that you'd like to hear more about. Or if you're struggling with something, I'd love to know what's what you're struggling with and if we can help. Okay, so they're super intense. Not really what we're looking for. And they're just kind of doing the same thing as those pads, so I might just leave that to... Oops. I don't know why that came up. These are the joys of doing musical tutorials when you're live streaming and you've got a microphone in front of you, is that you forget to talk and you forget to explain what you're doing. So all I'm doing here is I'm tidying up this MIDI a little bit so it can start at the same time as where I want it. That's it. So let's jump here a little bit. And a marker is what I want. So strings in. So I should play back music or something while I'm doing this. Now, what strings are here? These are the Abbey Road ones, which are pretty cool. And I'm going to switch on the soaring. Now, I'm going to come back and automate these later in case you were wondering why I'm not automating them now. And this is nothing either. So, I think we'll do these. These are kind of subtle. So this is Spitfire Albion. And Spitfire Albion, these are very edge of breakup. So they're really good for kind of adding kind of subtle dynamics to mainline. So I like to pair them with symphonic Spitfire Symphony Orchestra strings. That's what I wanted to say. And so these are high. So we're going to put these as our kind of lows. We don't want them too wild because it's not that kind of buzz, is it? So we have this idea. So that's not playing for some reason. Don't know why. It's probably written them too high, I think. Oops. Okay. Oh, we've got all these as well, so can't forget about them. Here we go. Okay, where did I put them? So these are currently doing nothing. And because they're lows, we're going to have to do you guys. They are super, super quiet. That's the one thing about this Albion library is it's so crazy quiet. Okay, something funny's going on here. There we go. Sounds so creepy. Okay, I want to fix this a little bit more because something is not sitting right with it at the moment. And I think this lower octave, I think this upper octave is going to go. Or, yeah, I think we'll get rid of this one. That's already going to be covered. So I'm thinking kind of cello and bass here. And that is something is not sitting right with me there either. Let me where are we at? 53. Okay. I think I should have just left this as a coffee and chat, because once you get into these pieces, you're like, oh, I need to change that a lot. So maybe there will be another maybe I'll just leave that be, because there's too much to do on it. But maybe I will jump on if you'd like to see that. Maybe I'll have time to kind of turn the camera on and show you how I finish off that. But I thought there'd be slightly less decision making, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems to be quite a lot of decision making. So there you go. Yes, happy finish of 2025. I hope you enjoyed the year, and I hope it was a good time for you. And yeah, I'll be back again next year, 2026. Bigger, brighter future for all of us. I hope you have a great and enjoyable holiday time. And yeah, for those of you that celebrate, and you know, enjoy the family time and the whatever else this time of year brings. New newsletter out tomorrow, which will be pretty much a summation of all the things that I've been talking about here. Yeah, get in touch. Let me know what you think. Check out Substack, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in 2026.